So good morning from Baku to our friends back in Alberta and to our guests that are in the audience here at the Corinne Pavilion for COP29. So this morning in this presentation, you're going to hear about an inspiring organization that's supporting student innovation. You're going to hear about the experiences of an Alberta teacher and student that had the opportunity to go to the biodiversity COP in Colombia just last month, and their support of the Global Child Biodiversity Declaration, which is going to actually have its own presentation in the Corinne Pavilion on November 21st. You're also going to hear about a group of robotics students found a solution for a challenge their school's Ecole was having. Some of the presenters, as you can see, are also online, and so they're going to be available for a question and answer period after the video. So without further ado, we're going to play that video, and then we'll continue the discussion as soon as it's over.
Well, good morning, Baku, from your colleagues in climate from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. My name is Bill Whitelaw. I'm here in three capacities. I have a day job in Canada's energy sector with a company called Geologic Systems. We're a global energy intelligence company, but I'm really here in my capacity as a volunteer with two really important organizations, the Clean Resource Innovation Network, in whose pavilion this great conversation is being hosted, on behalf of another phenomenal organization, the 10 Peaks Innovation Alliance, which is an Alberta-based organization that exists to create critical conversations about the energy, climate, and ecosystem environment nexus for students and their teachers in Alberta. And we just finished 2 weeks ago with a phenomenal conference in Red Deer, Alberta, and we'll hear about that through our conversations. And then following the conversations with the two individuals I'll introduce shortly, we're going to have a phenomenal conversation with the very young men on whose futures climate considerations will rest. And Brock and Wakefield and Stein will have some fascinating things to say. They're part of a very cool set of clubs in Lacombe, Alberta, at a high school there. You'll hear about the United Robotics Club of Lacombe and EcoVision Environmental Club. And they're also connected at the hip with 10 Peaks Innovation Alliance. And so with me are Dagmar Knudsen, our founder and chairman of our board of directors, a phenomenal board, I might add, not just because I'm on it, and Steve Schultz, a longtime educator here in the province and fellow board member, joined at the same time I did a year ago. And we're going to blend these conversations and what we hope will be, for the viewers in Baku and who may see this after the Conference of the Parties, an opportunity to take some inspiration from the things we're doing here in Alberta to engage transgenerational conversations around these really, really critical issues. But I'd really like to tell you about the 10 Peaks origin story. And how it came about is fascinating, and it really is the secret sauce of the whole way to have future conversations about climate and energy. So Dagmar, give me the origin story of 10 Peaks, because every time you tell it, you inflect it with something new and something different that teaches me a lot about how to have a conversation about what people know and what they don't know and how to connect those two dots for them. And so the 10 Peaks story is really about dot connecting, and you do that so beautifully.
So I was inspired by my son. It's April 2019. He comes home from school and we're standing in the kitchen and he goes, "Oh, Mom, we're the worst in the world." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are we the worst in the world for?" He goes, "Our oil sands. Our oil sands are the worst in the world." I said, "Well, I know our emissions haven't always been the greatest, but do you know they've come down 15 or 20%, like depending on what company you're talking about?" He goes, "No, Mom, I don't know anything about that." I said, "Well, carbon capture, it's a really big deal for Alberta and by extension, Canada as a whole." I said, "Do you know anything about carbon capture?" And he's like, "No, Mom, I don't know anything about that." So my son plays hockey, and at that time he was playing AA. We live in Red Deer, and 20 minutes down the road is Lacombe, and we're in the rink all the time. And I say, "Aiden, literally 15 minutes directly east of the rink is the injection site for the Alberta Carbon Trunk Line. Do you know anything about that?" And he goes, "No, Mom, but our teachers say that our textbooks are at least 5 years out of date." And I thought, you know what? That's right on point. I think our educators are doing a great job. I know that the technology and innovation changes every year. I work as a CFO for a welding manufacturing company. We build pressure vessels and oil field equipment, and technology changes for us. So I cannot expect teachers to become experts in all the technology and all the innovation that we have in Alberta that reduces emissions and our carbon footprints, write lesson plans, be comfortable enough to present it in front of their classrooms, answer all the questions, and do that on a regular day on top of all the other education activities that they need to do. So I thought, well, what can I do? Well, I can hold a conference. I can go to Rexall. I can go to Saddle Dome. We can have all these amazing speakers come and teach our kids about what we're doing to reduce our emissions and reduce our carbon footprint. And really, that's how it all started. I sent out emails to all his middle school teachers and his principals and said, who wants to get an email from Dagmar? I'm willing to share reports, videos, short snippets on what are we doing, what's innovation and technology. And I started to share that out with 2 teachers. His math, social, and science teachers got back to me. The one taught the 2 subjects. I started off with that. When he went into high school, I added all his high school teachers. I kept sending out all my emails. And then as the year progressed, I thought, well, what else can I do? Well, let's hold this amazing conference. And in the fall of 2021, we held our first conference. It was all virtual, but the uptake from academia, industry, not-for-profits, oh my gosh, our amazing Indigenous speakers that we have, they all talk about and want to share their perspective on the energy transformation and the transition that we are in. What are we doing to reduce emissions? What are we doing to reduce our footprint? What are we doing for the environment? Let's have those conversations and change the conversation.
Perfect. And I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to talk about the conference that we just held, as I mentioned earlier, 2 weeks ago, a phenomenal conference. It was amazing. But a big part of the conference's success is educators like Steve Schultz, my fellow board member, from whom every time he speaks, I learn a lot, and I run out and make a lot of notes about critical things. So, Steve, these conferences are really successful, and you wear 2 kinds of hats in this conversation. You're a board member. You've joined when I joined a year ago in terms of influencing it. But as an educator in a high school in a community just north of Red Deer, you do a lot of phenomenal things, and you see firsthand the power of youth engagement. So I want to hear about the school, and I want to hear about the EcoVision Club that you've been running since 2006 in the school. And then we're going to connect that to the conference and the way conferences like the 10 Peaks Conference can create critical mass around conversations, because, of course, EcoVision and the great things that you do there get connected to a broader and inspire other educators like yourself. So start with the school. Describe the school in Lacombe.
I joined the school in 1997. That's a long time ago. And I just wanted to be a good science teacher. And 2006, something happened that changed my projection and revealed something that was really, really important to our youth. And that was in one of my science classes, I said that words without actions are meaningless. And this resonated in one girl's mind. And a couple weeks later, actually 6 months later, she came back to me and said, I'd like to take our school off the electrical grid. Back in 2006.
2006. Wow.
Crazy. And so she said, you're the teacher. And I said, why am I the teacher? Well, you made this statement in my class and it's been bothering me and we need to take action. And so I tried to discourage her because I thought there was, something weird about the situation. So I said, you have to go and create a vision statement. You have to go and make a plan, and you have to have some friends that will help you. Well, a week later, she had her vision, and she had her plan, and she had 12 other students that joined her in this adventure. And the vision was that we're going to grow student leaders that improve the environment, enhance their education, and collaborate with the community. And so we started fundraising by going door to door, business to business, and 3 years later raised $45,000.
In 2006. Wow.
Yeah. And so this was now 2009. And then in 2010, we put a 6-kilowatt solar system on the roof of our school. And I thought, well, my project's done. I'll go back to teaching science. But then a catastrophe happened. 1 month later, September 21st, I will never forget this day. Some roofers came to our school, were working on the roof, and they left the blowtorches on and left for lunch. Like in Alberta, people know the weather can change on a dime, and a big windstorm came along and blew the blowtorch over, and our whole roof started on fire right underneath our solar panels. So we evacuated the school. I went to the center part of the football field, And I watched 850 students cheering as their school was burning. And then this group of 12 students gathered around me, absolutely in tears and devastated that their project that they had fundraised and sweat and tears and consulted with the community was up in flames. And that
Wow.
was that day that I realized that my job wasn't done and that I had a bigger purpose. So we did some research. We found out that NASA sends spider plants into space. And so their first project was to give every single teacher a spider plant because spider plants clean the air. And so we both psychologically and physically cleaned the atmosphere of our school. That had such an impact of hope on our school that I knew that we had to build another project. And so spider plants are a tropical plant. So the students said, well, why don't we build a greenhouse? It has to be good for the environment, enhance their education, and collaborate with the community. And I just said, it's impossible because we live in a climate that the temperatures go to minus 40. They wanted the greenhouse to be tropical. And I said, it's going to have to use fossil fuels, but let's do some research. So we have a model that students have to do a year to 2 years of research. We consulted with lots and lots of experts. Then we had a breakthrough. We found a gentleman in Colorado that had been building these greenhouses that were net zero. So we consulted with him and agreed to build a prototype in Canada, became the first school in Canada to have a net zero geodesic tropical greenhouse. And that got built in 2012. And the whole school was involved in the building of it. It also put us on the map provincially and nationally. We started winning awards. Fast forward, we've now got some other unique projects happening in the school. First school in Canada to have bees for credits. We built a 2-acre garden with 200 fruit trees and 50 raised beds, all drip irrigated, conserving water, and capturing carbon, and also creating organic, healthy food for both our cafeteria and our community. We weren't done there. We found out that the kids during COVID were quite anxious, so we brought in baby goats, built a sustainable goat barn with a living roof. And then we found out about the unmarked graves in BC with our Indigenous peoples. And my Ecovision group said, we have to do something about that. And so we consulted with our local elders, and they were saying that they had to travel hundreds and hundreds of kilometers to harvest their sacred herbs and their plants. They had completely disappeared from the landscape. And so we went about trying to find out where these herbs were located and reintroduced 26 sacred herbs for Indigenous peoples. And that was back in 2022. And then we had a big naming ceremony and had workshops, Indigenous workshops. And then Tempeaks, we kind of joined Tempeaks in 2021, went to the conference that was held in Lacombe. That year, our Ecovision Club got nominated as the top 10 schools in the world for environmental action. And Tempeaks was gracious enough to allow us to host that opening event. And I will never forget that conference because it was very significant in creating a partnership, but also being able to recognize the accomplishments of our students at our school. I'd like to just also mention that all of these projects completely run by students.
Right. You told me that before, and I was fascinated by how you've let the governance model of the Ecovision Club be student-driven.
Yes.
Right. You know, it's not a science teacher looming over their shoulders, guiding them. They're actually telling you what to do, which is critical in terms of where they're going to go in their careers.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to that whole, from the tragedy of the solar system to the triumph of the spider plant, because the tropical plant connection there is critical to this document that's sitting in front of us. But I'm going to come back because at our last conference, of course, the Ecovision Club, during our kickoff breakfast, received really good accolades for a very cool pollinator health program, which we'll talk about. But Dagmar, think about the evolution, because I'd like you also to reflect on the importance of teachers in the ecosystem. You said something really important, is that most places in the world, school curriculums lag the headlines, right? And so teachers are very, very interested in ideas and perspectives that they can bring to life the curriculum, but in a current context, right? So talk about the teachers themselves at the conference in terms of how grateful they are that they're getting a real timely, topical, and relevant look at the world through the kinds of speakers you gather and panel members and workshops that we create.
And that's a great question, Bill. The teachers are amazing. The teachers that follow 10 Peaks and join our newsletter and reach out to me, they want to know what's going on and what is available for their students to learn more. So, our conference gives the ability to host amazing speakers from all different areas. And the kids then get to decide what sessions they want to go in. So, we have like 3 amazing keynotes, the breakfast and 2 at the conference. But then we also have 16 breakout sessions and 12 hands-on workshops. So the students get to decide who they want to hear from and who they want to ask their questions to. So I feel the opportunity for teachers to ask their students, who do you want to go see and what questions do you have? Here's your opportunity to reach out and have great conversations and ask really good questions, as you know. I think it's a great way to harness that curiosity that's out there. And let's talk about innovation and technology and the environment and how it all fits together. I think our teachers are amazing. They're
Yeah,
amazing.
well, they're doing an amazing job. The students who come actually terrify me with the sophistication of their questions for the panels that I moderate. And, when I'm in front of them, I think, oh, you're going to ask me a tough one. And they do ask tough questions because they've got teachers like Steve. Based on that, Steve, that whole idea as a teacher and in most education systems, there's bureaucracy and administration, and there's a pent-up demand in the classroom for teachers to have more contemporary and current insight sitting on top of the foundation of the good curriculum. But talk to me about the process for you, and I'm going to navigate in this question to this declaration here in a second, but I want to know, the students drive all this at Ecovision, and you also run the robotics club, and the students drive the robotics dynamics. That's a critically important one. But what do you learn? What I've learned from you is that teachers are always learning themselves. So reflect for a moment on what you're learning through the way students are thinking about the ideas, the way they view the world. There's that generational difference. You and I are of the same generation, and they see things differently, and we learn from them.
Yeah, what I've discovered is that students care. Students care about the environment.
Absolutely.
And they want to make a difference, but they often feel helpless. Currently, our school system does not create a system or an environment, maybe is a better word, to foster that growth, to foster that curiosity. So 10 Peaks offers that vacuum, offers a solution to that vacuum by offering workshops, by offering this conference. Unanimously, I hear from teachers and from students that they want to see increased curriculum around the environment, around issues of energy, around issues of sustainability, around issues of biodiversity. We did a survey before we wrote this paper, and unanimously, every country in the world wants more nature, environmental curriculum in their schools. It's a universal problem. It's a universal desire. The second thing I hear is teachers need PD because the curriculum has not modified, has not changed to embrace climate change and environmental issues.
Right.
And so, again, 10 Peaks offers that opportunity for teachers to get some PD along with their students.
Perfect. That's exactly the point I wanted to draw out. So we're broadcasting this conversation to thousands and thousands of delegates from around the world who are in Baku in Azerbaijan for the Conference of the Parties 29 under the United Nations Framework on Climate Change Convention. But you've just returned from another United Nations initiative, COP16, which is another conference of the parties that looks at biodiversity. And we have in front of us a really, really important and historical document in terms of a declaration and a first in the United Nations context. So take us through that. And at the same time, your journey, you've just returned from Cali, Colombia, and this whole experience. Take us into it.
Yeah. So I'm really, really fortunate to have found another organization called the Center for Global Education. It's an international organization that fosters an environment where students can voice their opinions on environment, climate change, and biodiversity. They have two programs that I've been involved in. One's called Decarbonize, which is the climate change program, and the other one is called Education Nature Nexus, which is the biodiversity program. So this year, we got fortunate enough to get one of our students selected to attend COP16. You'll hear from him later, Brock Johnson, and he helped write this declaration that I'll show you right here. It's called the Global Child Biodiversity Declaration, United for Nature. And in this declaration, students from around the world, from 15 countries, about 1,000 students, got together on a virtual platform and wrote down their ideas and issues that they saw around biodiversity and climate disasters and climate change. And they came up with 6 declarations. And those 6 declarations got written into this paper with art and also with the survey results. And the 6 declarations are: children from around the world would like government policies to change. Children from around the world would like to see school curriculum change and have more inclusive nature-based curriculum. This one I'm really glad is part of the declaration. They want Indigenous perspectives. And again, Tim Peaks has hit that home run in that area, providing PD and opportunities for students to hear the Indigenous knowledge and perspective. The 4th declaration is funding for these projects. Second most needed thing when I hear from other teachers is how can we get more funding so we can build infrastructure and build programs. Public awareness is another declaration. And I've forgotten the 6th one.
The 6 pillars, I read it when it was sent to me earlier. And of course, the uniqueness of this, just as we sort of move to close here, is that it's the first time in United Nations history that a declaration has been adopted by the United Nations.
So on Friday, last Friday, after our Blue Zone students had promoted everything they could about the paper and done several presentations, the United Nations Council adopted our declaration, a child's declaration, for the first time in history.
And of course, you mentioned this earlier, and it's important. So when we think in a United Nations context, children has a special semantical meaning, but we're really talking about young leaders of tomorrow.
Correct. So youth are considered to be 18 to 35, according to the United Nations.
Yes.
So children are 18 and younger.
Yeah.
So that's a really important distinction. But I do believe that we need to hit this point again, that our youth not are only going to be the leaders of the future, they also have really, really, really good ideas. And that they're an untapped energy source, an untapped brain source as well. And they really, really do care.
Absolutely.
And they really do want to invest, and they do want to see change. They want to be partners in this whole program.
And just at 10 Peaks, as we wrap up here, we start planning next year's conference before the dust is barely settled on it.
True.
And you know what? I can't think of a better structure than this declaration to build a whole conference on those 6 pillars. So, Steve, thank you very much. Dagmar, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to talking to Stein and to Brock and to Wakefield and to bring everything we've talked about to life through their perspectives of it. So thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Dagmar, for the opportunity 10 Peaks has provided for my students and for schools around Alberta and Canada.
Well, thank you so much. I am excited to always connect with you and your students and all the students that I possibly can, because when you come to that conference and you leave there energized, you appreciate the energy of youth, and the visions and the questions that they have are amazing.
So if you want to see all this come to life, stay tuned for Brock, Stein, and Wakefield. Thank you. So here we are, guys, having a conversation in front of the world. How cool is that?
Pretty amazing.
Pretty good.
I have to tell you, at 10 Peaks Innovation Alliance, we're so proud to be associated with Ecole, Secondaire, Lacombe Composite High School. That's a mouthful for you. So we'll refer to it as Lacombe Composite from here on in. I'm here with 3 of the bright minds from that school: Wakefield Roadhouse, Brock Johnson, Stein Tans. And we're going to have a conversation about a bunch of things. The role technology plays in climate health and biodiversity health and ecosystem health. And we're going to start with you, Brock, because you're just fresh off the airplane from Cali, Colombia, where you attended a critically important global conference and where you showcased the work that your Ecovision Environmental Club at Lacombe Composite is doing. And you got to talk to the world about the cool things like your net zero geodesic greenhouse, the indigenous garden, the food forest. So just reflect on what that experience was like.
It was life-changing. I don't know how to describe it other than it was incredible to be able to share experiences with people from so many different countries. And I kind of explained how, yeah, it can get super cold in Canada. Sometimes it gets to -40. So we have built a greenhouse, a tropical greenhouse, so we can grow things like banana trees, lemons, herbs. And we even have an aquaponic system. And we also have a food forest with over 200 fruit trees, with over 30 different varieties. And we have an indigenous garden called Little Mother Earth. And it has 26 reintroduced flowers and plants that are sacred to our indigenous peoples because they have medicinal use. So I got to explain all of the awesome biodiverse projects at my school to so many new people. And I just loved talking to them about it, how we all set it up, how it's all student-led. It was definitely a very positive experience, and I'll probably remember it for the rest of my life.
And of course, you met other different dimensions of biodiversity from other people around the world, especially being in a place like Colombia where biodiversity looks different than it does in Canada relative to the way our climate works.
Colombia is definitely a lot more biodiverse than Canada is. Canada just gets very cold, while Colombia is tropical. So like, what just simply amazed me, just a simple fact that there was more than one kind of pigeon in Colombia. It sounds really simple and just really small, but like the fact that I got to see like brown pigeons and white pigeons for like the first time, it blows my mind. And that's like a tip of the iceberg, because I'm not even mentioning all the insects, all the plants, all the different birds. Like, I'm pretty sure they also have the condor, which is incredible. I can't even begin to like imagine what the rest of the biodiversity is compared to Canada. Like, it's immaculate.
You probably came back with a gazillion ideas for programming that will last for the next half century in terms of for the local club in central Alberta to carry on. So we'll come back to that. But you're involved in the Ecovision Club, and you're tied to the 10 Peaks Innovation Alliance, of which I'm proud to be part of. And your great teacher, Steve Schultz, is a fellow board member of mine, as we heard in the previous conversation. But the other great club at the school is the United Robotics Club of Lacombe, right? And Stein and Wakefield, you're both involved in that. And there is a biodiversity connection to climate through the work you were doing this year on the pollinators program, right? And so we have a really cool piece of technology here. So Stein, why don't you and Wakefield lead our viewers and listeners through what this piece of plexiglass with all kinds of cool wires and sensors and everything. So tell me what that device actually does, because I'm going to ask you also about the economics of manufacturing it. So you started the project with this really cool piece of technology that is going to contribute substantially to the way we think about the ecosystem in which bees and other pollinators live.
So this device, it's an Arduino-based system with a shield on it where we could put an SD card for information, but it connects to 3 important sensors. So the CO2 sensor, humidity sensor, and temperature sensor. 3 essential factors in a beehive during the winter. We can't open up a beehive during the winter to check these manually because the bees will freeze, especially here in Alberta where we get cold snaps of -40. So we created this so that we could still know what was going on inside of the hive without opening it, so that we could put open and close ventilation a bit to adjust the factors that this monitors.
So Wakefield, in terms of the problem that the Robotics Club was trying to solve when developing a non-invasive sensoring system for winter health, that came from some really interesting science that told us we had a problem with pollinator health.
So at our school, we have a beehive club and class. It's very special. I believe we're the only one in Canada to have credits for our beehives. Very impressive. And just this last year, our beehive class lost 75% of its hives. And that was like devastating because they are not cheap hives and we just can't like continuously buy new hives every summer. But I believe like the worst part about it was we didn't really know why they died. Because during the winter, they're basically isolated in their hive. You can't open it up.
Right.
You can't look inside because, cold air would just kill them as soon as you look in. So with this monitoring system, we intend to be able to track the important factors of the beehive health while it's winter. And then with that, we can act accordingly when we see that it's getting too cold, it's getting too humid, it's not enough ventilation. And it's important because you can't just have too much ventilation or also get too cold, but not enough ventilation and it'll just get too damp, or not enough oxygen and you'll suffocate them. With this project, we intend to find the balance and also know when we get off balance with a hive.
So I'm going to come back and ask you about the economics of the actual technology here in a second. But Stein, tell us about the CO2 sensor. I'm intrigued to know what the carbon dioxide data will tell you in terms of the hive health when it's locked up in the winter.
Yeah. Well, the CO2 sensor, it's an infrared sensor, so it can see it through infrared rays. But it can tell us what the CO2 levels are parts per million. That is, at any given time. Our plan is to have this sent to some sort of app so that we can check it via our phone or some other device.
Right, so you'll be able to monitor in real time the hive health while the bees are dormant over the winter. When we chatted about that earlier, Wakefield, we were talking about the economics of this because part of the Robotics Club is thinking about technology and economic scaling, right? So talk to me about what you think you can manufacture that for, where it can be easily accessible to every beekeeper in Canada who might be interested in the same data sets.
Well, we're doing this through MindFuel, and they believe an important part of innovation is the economics of it and being able to scale it more, because it's great to have it for our school, but we also want to be able to help other beekeepers of Alberta to do this. This is just a prototype, but the estimated cost for this would be $50 if we just build one model. But if we can find some good sources and whatnot, we think we could scale it down to $20 just for the fundamental costs, and then put in a $5 to $10 profit margin for a school so we can fund more projects like this.
Perfect. And MindFuel is a phenomenal organization, tremendously doing important work. And of course, that economics of technology becomes critical in some of these climate considerations where we're thinking about biodiversity and ecosystem health and that sort of thing. So let me come back to you, Brock. How much was technology a conversation when you were in Cali?
To be quite honest, I don't think we talked about it that much. We never really got to talk about an experience or a company or whatnot there that really delved super deep into electronics. I personally believe it's something to definitely look into, and this is a prime example of that. Using technology to take care of our own biodiversity, and when I say our own, I mean the world's biodiversity, using technology to make the world better. It's hard to say that's not a thing we should all advocate for.
And that was, again, very well expressed. All three of you guys are stunning me with your intelligence, and that's tremendous. So when you think about some of the great stuff that the EcoVision Club does, you went off to the COP16 and then you came back to look after goats. And that club has had its almost 20 years anniversary is coming up, right, in 2026. It's done a lot of really, really cool things. Tell us about some of the current activities of the EcoVision Club.
Some of our current goals, we used to have a lot of tilapia in our greenhouse because a lot of students who are part of the EcoVision class love taking care of tilapia. So we had tilapia in our greenhouse to help fertilize our soil. The sad part about EcoVision is that it's absolutely wonderful that it's student-run, but one of the downsides is that since it's student-run and it relies all on the students, if there's a project that is run by students and the students leave and there's no replacement of students the next year to take their spot and take care of those projects sometimes either disappear or go on hold until someone comes along and takes up that responsibility.
But that's what the real world is like too, right? And so in many ways it mimics the conditions you'll encounter when you're finished school and you're off to university or whatever career path you choose to take on that. But let me draw back that link into you, Stein and Wakefield, on some of the great things that Brock has told us about what he's learned from the commonality among global biodiversity problems and the uniqueness of different climate conditions. The pollinator in the bee program, you learn about how critical pollinators are to the way the canola crop goes in central Alberta, as an example. So reflect on why looking after pollinators is critically important.
Well, to start off, bees, they help provide 2/3 of the world's food production. So just think of only 1/3 of the world being alive. So we have here 4 people in a room. So at least 2 of us wouldn't be here if it weren't for bees.
And so when you think about the data that will come from this, in the Robotics Club, how active is the artificial intelligence conversation now?
We haven't gone into like implementing any of it. We're part of another program, First Tech Challenge. Yeah, you have like a robot and you complete certain challenges that change year per year. And yeah, we've definitely been thinking about implementing artificial intelligence. It's a new area. It's probably going to be the future for sure. So it's interesting to see that. We haven't implemented it in any areas to my knowledge, but it's definitely come up a couple times, and we've definitely had support from mentors in looking into it.
So just in terms of the clubs itself, you're in grade 11, you two, and you're in grade 12, and you're going to do that extra year to get the totality of the environmental programming opportunities. But if I asked you to think about 2030, and 2030 in a climate context is a critically important one because, of course, that's one of the big milestones that the United Nations has set under the Paris Agreement, right? In terms of all the countries in the world have to set their nationally defined contributions on how much emissions reduction they're going to make and that sort of thing. But let's use 2030 as a milestone year. You guys will all be into either still in school, continuing post-secondary, or you'll be in careers of innovators and entrepreneurs. What would you say to the club members coming up behind you in the Robotics Club and the Eco Club, some of the things that you've learned and lessons that you would like to impart, where you get to be like the old guy like me who says, oh, no, if only you'd listened to me back in the day. But one day that will come to you. And so I want you to go to that future state, and we're going to start with you, Wakefield, giving these guys a few minutes to think about their answers, and you'll get a chance to jump in. But what would you say to the younger you looking backward from 2030?
When I joined robotics, and that was just last year, it's crazy to think about that, I didn't know what I was doing. First off, I was completely over my head. But I just thought it would be pretty easy stuff, like nothing overly complicated. But it's hard and challenging. But if I learned anything, it's people are there to support you. Like, I would have never dreamed the places I would go with robotics and just all of that. Like, it's such an amazing environment these days where people want you to grow. And if I could tell myself back then, it's like, it's just an opportunity to grow and learn and everything, and just take whatever you can, because it's really amazing. I also didn't think I was going to be part of this like eco stuff and whatnot. Like, I'm interested, I'm all there for it, but I never joined robotics for that. But the more you look into it, the more you see, oh, it's like all connected. Like the bees help the eco environment, but then the business also is helped by the bees, and the bees pollinated in other farms and crops and the greenhouse and the school's farm and whatnot. It helps the school as well. So it's just business, eco-friendly technology, it all comes together. And to treat it as like different and like not interconnected is just nonsense. So it's really seeing it as a whole and not as just separate parts.
Perfect. That's extremely well put. Everything is interconnected and interdependent and interlocked with each other. What would the 2030 Stein say to the people who are admiring all the great work you've done out there? If you've graduated from school and you're out making your mark on the world, what would you say to them about how to get involved?
Take every shot you can. Mr. Schultz came to us last year saying that there's another challenge different from what we were doing at the beginning of the year with First Tech Challenge. Said we have a Tech Futures Challenge. Mindfuel gave us this opportunity, and Mr. Schultz passed it along to us. Wakefield, I, Judah, and Eugene then embarked and got to where this is now. And every time a new opportunity shows, we've been taking it, and we got to meet some really advanced people in this world.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. So the final word goes to you, Brock. Back to your point about student governance and student-led and student-supported. Thinking about what you learned in Cali, there's no vacuum here. We got to keep the club filled with these challenges that will solve future problems. Like if you look at those 6 themes on which your manifesto was penned, the foundational themes, that should keep students filled with inspiration and courage to be able to say, there's no shortage of stuff we can fill the EcoVision Club with.
I 100% agree. The 6 statements have everything, not just to do with biodiversity over every single country. It also has 6 fundamental themes that our group has to go through one way or another. There's a lot of programs within EcoVision that we need to be able to fund. And EcoVision has a lot of association with the other environmental classes that has somewhat to do with our school curriculum. There's working together with the community to make sure all these projects happen so we can get sponsors and so we can advocate for this kind of change. It's all linked together so we can achieve the one big goal of helping out the same world we all live on. That's why I joined EcoVision, is just because I'm a guy who just likes to help people, and I found it as the perfect opportunity.
So I couldn't think of a better way to end the conversation on that very inspirational note. But through it, we've mentioned a bunch of different organizations, and I think we owe the world an explanation on the various names we've brought up. Really appreciate the effort that those organizations put in and the investment that they made to allow us to have this conversation. So Wakefield?
10 Peaks, we wouldn't be here without them. They're just an amazing organization that's supporting STEM and just all this like in learning and like getting to meet amazing people. So thanks to 10 Peaks for that.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
I want to say thank you to Center of Global Education. They're one of the main reasons I was able to go to Cali, Colombia, which was an unforgettable experience. I'm very happy that I was able to be a part of one of their programs to help make a difference in the world. So yeah, thank you, Center of Global Education.
Last word to you, Stein.
I want to say thanks to MindFuel. They came to us with their competition of Tech Futures Challenge with the goal of getting youth involved in real-world problems and having them solved. That's the reason we have this as it is.
So MindFuel, Center for Global Education, and 10 Peaks, all organizations the world should look at.
Thank you. Yeah, they were so great.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. We have got some questions in the audience. So we're joined live by teacher Steve Schultz, Dagmar, the founder of 10 Peaks, Brock Johnson, and Stein Tens, and Judah, also part of the robotics club. So I'll just go to the audience and see if we've got any burning questions to ask. Perfect.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, thanks you guys. This is amazing, truly inspiring, and thanks so much for being here with us at COP29 in Baku. And you know, when you're telling the story about the things that are going on at the school, the greenhouse, the indigenous garden, the fruit trees, the bees, the goats, it's just awesome. But my question, and it's not aimed at any one of you, but my question really is, what's next? Any new ideas? What's coming down the pipe, or what would you like to see coming down next? I'd like to hear from the student perspective on that.
Should we start with Brock? Did you have any thought? And we'll go around to all 3 of the students and see if they have something to say.
Well, let's see. In regards to EcoVision, just making sure you can hear me all right, right?
Yep.
I'm coming through all right?
Yep.
All right. So in regards to EcoVision right now, the thing we're currently doing right now is what we're experimenting with, is that we are starting to learn how to grow mushrooms, and we are incorporating that in the local markets we participate in. And that's kind of a step-by-step process we're going through right now to developing our skill set. Actually, right as we speak, we have I don't know what you'd call them, two big mushroom blocks in my sister's bedroom that we take care of every day, and that's currently what we're doing. Uh, we would be doing a lot. We're doing a couple other things too, but uh, sadly, Ecovision at the moment is it has a lot of members, but it just doesn't have a lot. It doesn't have as many members as when it first started. So that's a little disappointing, but it does not mean that we have any lack in spirit. And I personally believe we're doing really great, and our projects, like including the mushroom project we're working on right now, we're having a lot of fun with it, and can't wait to see what happens with it. See how where it goes.
Thanks, Brock. How about you, Stein?
Um, I would like to see the Bee Wise Beehive monitoring project to go farther. As of right now, we only have a prototype, but I'd like to see it become actually implemented in the beehives. Like to see it keep our hives alive.
Perfect. And Judah?
Yeah, I would. I agree with Stein. I would like the. Can you guys hear me? The furnace is on. I'm not sure if that's gonna.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I think I would like to see the project go on for sure, and I'd also like to see that when we are gone from the school, when we've graduated and we're moving on doing other things in our future, I would like to see our project passed on to another group of students or have students come up with something of their own that they would put their time and energy into, because when we put our time and energy into this, we got all these great opportunities, and they'll definitely affect our lives for years to come, and I think other students should have that option.
Right. Steve, did you have any additional thoughts that you wanted to add as their mentor?
Yeah, so we are embarking on reintroducing our fish. We're going to be trying a Canadian fish this time called rainbow trout, and going to be embarking on growing up to 50 to maybe 100 fish in an aquaponic system where there's a symbiotic relationship between the fish and the plants, where we'll grow vegetables from the fish fertilizer, and where the plants will clean the aquarium or the big fish pond in the greenhouse. We also have a banana tree flowering right now, and we're hoping that we can have a banana harvest this year. We're also embarking on a food security project. We discovered that 21% of our students are moderately or severely food insecure. So we're using some of the food that we grow and have been feeding about 200 students every day at our local high school. It doesn't have to be a place, in poverty. Food security affects us all everywhere in the world at different degrees. So those are a couple of the other current projects. Also, we're hosting our first robotics competition on December 1st at Lacombe Composite High School, where the 4 teams are going to showcase their robots on ocean discovery and ocean specimen retrieval. So it's tied into the ocean environments. And I'm really excited about those opportunities. And I want to echo what all 3 of the boys have said, is that we have these opportunities at our school, and there's opportunities probably at other schools around the world. I just encourage students to take opportunities, take advantage of those opportunities. Find a teacher that's passionate about supporting you. If you can't find a teacher, there's going to be somebody in the community that will support you. And find organizations like was said in the podcast, like 10 Peaks and the Center for Global Education and Mindfuel.
That's wonderful. Okay, we've got a couple more questions. So just one moment here. I'm going to pass the mic. They can't see you, so you can introduce who you are to them.
Hi, I'm here. I'm Tanis. I'm here with Decarbonize with Center for Global, and can say that it is a fantastic program. But I would like to know what your thoughts are on one action that students can take to encourage other students to carry on your legacy. What would be one thing that you think is going to work with youth your age?
So what are you guys doing to promote environmental action or action in robotics? Start with you, Brock.
One thing I'm doing to promote environmental action in Ecovision is definitely. I have to say it's definitely every day I go in and I'm the guy who every week during our club meeting, I'm the guy who waters all the plants inside the greenhouse, like even during the winter. I make sure I make sure all the plants have just the right amount of water, not too much, not too little. I make sure I spray all the banana trees top to bottom, make sure all the leaves get plenty of water and stuff. It's definitely it definitely it definitely shows how valuable not only patience is to the craft of environmental action, but also dedication. Because it's kind of hard to accomplish many environmental actions without looking for having those two things defined within yourself. And I think that's really a very valuable piece of mind that anyone looking to going down the path of environmental action should seek. Hope that made sense.
Thank you, Brock. Stein or Judah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I'd like to go a little bit a different direction. And tell them that it's not as hard as it looks. All it takes is effort. It, a lot of these things, they're not hard to do. It just requires effort to do them. Like a lot, even with our bee monitoring project, there's tiny tasks that you can do to help out, even though you might not see them as important, but those things do take effort and need to be done.
And to quote you in your video, Stein, you just have to take the shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good one. How about you, Judah? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to add on to Stein's thing where he's like, it's not really that hard. He's right. If you have some friends with basic engineering skills and you know some teachers that are smarter than you, like all of mine, they will help you and they'll guide you through there. I personally I don't do enough with advertising because I don't know. I don't have a good excuse for this. But when we advertise, we like to bring them in with snacks, and it's hard to keep people to stay because we do expect them to put time and energy into it because we expect them to care. And I think if we eased people into it a little bit more, we'd get some more people in there. But I think our main problem is we scare them away by making it look complicated. It's not really that bad. I can't code to save my life, but that is why I have Stein here. I just can't do it. You have to be able to spread your job around. And if you try to do everything by yourself, like what Stein said in his video, I think it's Stein, everything is connected. Could have been Wake. Everything is connected, and if you try to do it yourself, you will get overwhelmed and you will fail by yourself. So you do need that team.
Those are some fantastic nuggets of wisdom. And I will tell you as an adult that snacks work for grown-ups as well in getting them into a room and to participate. So don't ever underestimate the power of a good snack. I think we've got another question in the audience. Perfect. Please go ahead.
Hi, Steve, Brock, and the other students. I'm Annapurna here from the Decarbonize team. I'm really super impressed by the projects that you've taken up and have worked towards executing them. My question is, you have worked within your school premises and brought a lot of change into the ecosystem of your school. I want to know what is your plan to scale it up and take it up to the community at large? Specifically the device that you have built for the bees and and any other projects. What is your plan to scale it up so that it is useful to the community also at large?
I'll start first, and then I'll let Stein and Judah answer how they're going to scale it. But with EcoVision, we offer bi-weekly, monthly tours. We also offer workshops. Stein, I think, has been involved in a beekeeping workshop that we run every spring for our community at large. But what's really got me excited is that I'm beginning to share curriculum, environmental and agricultural curriculum. We also rely a lot on other organizations like 10 Peaks and the Center for Global Education to help us promote these ideas. It is difficult because my primary job is to be a teacher, and this is a secondary job on the outside of my teaching job. But I'm glad to say that we have now, I think, 12 of replicas of our greenhouse in the country of Canada, all the way up to the Northwest Territories, where they're growing kale and making it into potato chips so that the Indigenous people that live there can have a healthy snack all year, all the days of the year, even when it's -40 outside. So I'll turn it over to you, Stein and Judah, to explain how you're going to scale up the beekeeping project, and maybe talk a little bit about the couple conferences that you were at and the networking you did.
So yeah, I would like to first have the monitoring system built and fully working, but then we could introduce them into commercial businesses. Our beekeeping class already has close ties with a beekeeper, a local beekeeper, and they have agreed to help us with this project. And if everything goes to plan, we would like to introduce it starting there.
We're also hoping to to use our beehive monitoring project commercially with the local beekeeper, not just in the city, but around the city. There's a village called Bentley, and near there's Gull Lake, and there's Gull Lake honey, and they sell all around the province, and they have tours, and they have this giant company, and well, by our small standards, and they have all this beehives, and they're also dying in the winter, and they're hoping to employ our method. So once we get all our electronics out of a Tupperware bin and we get them into a nice case that will survive the winter, and we polish up a few things, we'll be able to get it to a local business, and then maybe that business with in connection with us, we can bump it up another notch to business outside the province, and we'll see a correlation in data, and we'll have all of these things that get a big picture of why they're dying, but also bring up awareness of the problem and that there is a potential way to fix it.
Fantastic. Do we have any other questions in the audience? We've got one more.
Yeah, one more question. So what I'm kind of interested in is, you've got these programs and they're very cool. It's really great that you guys have got inspired to participate. I'm curious to understand what it was that actually inspired you. Like, what got you interested in this in the first place? And maybe start with Brock.
I'm not sure if Brock's connection
May
is.
be frozen, so maybe we'll start with Stein.
I actually started this just by pure coincidence. So our school also has a business studies class, and then we have to do advertising for a bunch of things in school. We have a football team, so we had one group doing a football team, but our group, by coincidence, had to advertise for the robotics class. So we had to consult with Mr. Schultz, and eventually he asked us if we wanted to uh, take a shot at robotics. So I and one of my friends tried it out, and then one thing led to another, and eventually Mr. Schultz asked me, Judah, Wakefield, and Eugene, and also the rest of the robotics club, if we wanted to do the Tech Futures Challenge. So we took him up on it, and we came to where we are today.
It's fantastic. Brock, are you back with us? Got connection? Perfect. I see you moving, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. So let's see. Okay, because I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question? I was trying to fix my internet.
Yeah, no problem. Just wondering what got you interested in getting involved in these programs to start with?
Oh, I love that question. Uh, I've always had a passion for community and just the simple idea of helping people. I've I've always been an advocate for all of that good jazz, and I found EcoVision. One day I'm catching up on homework in one of my teacher's classes, and they're having an EcoVision meeting, and so Mr. Schultz invites me to join EcoVision, and as soon as I get the invitation, I accept. I check out the club. It's it's anything I'd ever want in a club. It's all about community. It's all about just helping everyone in like the entire world. And I just there's so many ideals that fit into that one club. So many different ideas, and it allows so many different kinds of people to collaborate with each other. And I that's kind of what inspired me to join, not just because how dedicated people can be to a cause, but also uh, just because there was a lot of other people like me who just felt the need to help people.
Fantastic. How about you, Judah?
I got interested in all of like the robotic stuff in grade 10. I saw some posters and was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool, but I don't know what I'm doing." And so I avoided it for a while. And then I was on the cross country running team with Stein and Wake, and they were like, "Hey Judah, you don't have friends. You should come with us, and you should do this robotics thing." And I was like, "I mean, I would, but I don't know what I'm doing." And they're like, "It's okay. None of us know what we're doing. We're basically making it up." And I was like, "I got that." So we went, and we did pretty good. We didn't lose most of our competitions. And Mr. Schultz near the end, when everyone was wrapping up and they were most people were pretty ready to have their Tuesday evenings back, Mr. Schultz was like, "Hey, we have this wonderful opportunity," I think was the exact quote, from this company called Mind Fuel, and we can go in this other competition. And I remember looking at Wake and Stein, and we just like looked at each other, and we shrugged, and we were like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I if I knew that I would be doing and I would have met the people that I had met, I probably would have been more enthusiastic. And I think it's crazy that the the shrugging and the half commitment that we gave ended up blossoming out into this thing where we are on a Zoom call with people from another country doing this thing. And I think that that is just, it's crazy, and I don't even know how to even finish that.
That's fantastic. I would say what I'm hearing from that is we often think that to get involved with something and to take action, it has to be this direct line, right? We have this idea and we see the end game and we follow that straight path. But you've given us some beautiful examples of how you can have these accidental encounters. And it's really the common thread is that you're all a part of a community. So by sharing what you're passionate about or something that you might think somebody else might be interested in, don't assume that their answer will be no. And so I think that that's really what I'm taking away from that. I'm incredibly proud of all of you. And I'm glad that I had the privilege of meeting you, most of you in person. You gave me a lot of hope in where we're headed when it comes to innovation. Dagmar, as the host of this event, did you have any closing words that you wanted to share?
I just want to thank all of you guys for coming out here at midnight and our time. And you are so inspiring. I think what you're saying is straight on point. You just take one step and you take the next step, and before you know it, there's a ripple effect. And you inspire your friends, and then they, talk to another friend, and they talk to a family member and someone in your community, and you inspire them. And before you know it, you've inspired and have this massive ripple effect. And I think that's the beauty of all of this, is that you guys are very inspiring to yourselves and then to other young people as well. But to adults like us, I just get pumped up every time I listen and hear what you guys all have to say. So thank you so much. And I appreciate everything that you're doing here. And I think your futures are very bright.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And the CRIN team will be supporting your friends at the Center for Global Education over in the Green Zone tomorrow with an event that they're doing. And we're also going to be hosting them in the pavilion, as I said, on the 21st to share the manifesto. So we'll be sure to be here to support them on your behalf. And from all of us here in Baku, we say thank you for your time and your energy, and keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you so much from CRIN and 10 Peaks, and I'm so proud of my students. I just wanted to do a shout out to them. Thank you for your commitment and for being willing to stay up till 1 o'clock our time. And thank you for all the great questions. Thank you so much to CRIN and you, Amber, as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
See you soon.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day there in Baku.